Welcome to the Flare Up Show. Today I have a special guest joining us all the way from beautiful Greece. Special guest, tell us who you are. Where do you live? Because I know you're visiting Greece right now. What are you known for, and what is your area of expertise?
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Orestis, and I'm originally from Greece, but I usually I live in Prague, but more general. Actually, I consider myself a citizen of the world because I've been around and traveled quite a bit. What I'm known for? Well, depends from which
The
period
US?
of my life you ask people, you know. Yeah, I've also lived in the US, yeah, for 6 years actually,
Oh,
in Los
nice.
Angeles.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. That's beautiful there. It is beautiful there.
Yeah, and 2 years in Spain and 1 year in
Nice.
UK. Yeah.
Nice.
Uh, yeah. So I think people from my past know me as a theoretical physicist because that was my previous career. But now people know me more as a hypnotherapist who helps people with chronic pain. So yeah, that's essentially how people know me, mostly in my life,
So you said
professionally at least.
theoretical physicist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you said, yeah, I find this so fascinating because I've had a few people on the show and even people I know in real life. They were physicists. Some of them have doctorates in physics, and then they've gone into healing work,
Oh,
which
okay.
is, and to me, it's just, again, it's that I just find it really fascinating. So tell us about what drew you from physics to a healing modality.
Yeah. So, well, I'm thinking a bit about it because it's actually a long story, and I'm trying a bit to summarize it in my mind to give everyone the main points.
Yeah.
Right? Uh, So, I mean, physics was my passion since very young age, and I really loved it. So that's why I went to study it, and I even did my PhD and two postdocs, and I
Yes.
was actually going after a degree in academia, career in academia. But at some point, actually, I got like through this effort, because this is something that takes a lot of effort and takes a lot out of someone. I went through a series of several burnouts in this process, not just one, you know.
Yeah, that's never just one.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, one of them led to fibromyalgia. One of these burnouts led to fibromyalgia and chronic pain and combination with a bunch of other orthopedic injuries. And I was trying to find answers in medicine and following the logic I had till that point, which
Yeah.
was very materialistic, very scientific, that science and medicine will give me an answer. And not only an answer, will give me a solution. And I spent too much energy and too much effort in that. Uh, and it was not giving me what I was looking for. And this started a process inside me where things started changing. I felt I needed to look for something different. I was not fully aware of what, but this feeling of this thing I'm so invested in, there is a part of it that doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
Both because of I couldn't find answers for what my body was going through, but also because I started to realize that this career path was not actually good for me anymore. Yeah. So, and then of course there were like several intermediate steps until I decided to study hypnosis and hypnotherapy. But for me, I think the significant part was that I decided I want to know more about the human experience. I decided I wanted to invest more of my time, my energy in discovering uh, the human experience, how it can vary, how it can alter, and yeah, how we can do that, and all the different degrees like it appears in the world, right, in different cultures and other things like that. So yeah, that was my progressive shift.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
You've really, it led you to a place, I guess, of really using both sides of the brain, I guess, right? So sort of that emotional, creative side, right, where things are not always so black and white, where that flexibility, and then the logic and the science, and then you found validity in both. Were you always sort of, even though you obviously were very focused on science and data and research, had you always been a curious person about things that maybe we don't understand?
I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
And actually, and that's what led me to science, and specifically to theoretical physics,
Yes.
because I like this idea that there is always something deeper to uncover. There
Yeah.
is always an extra layer of how the world works
Hmm.
that you can explore, and then to do that, you use a lot your imagination and, and of course mathematics, but it is a lot about making a story. Like in theoretical physics, it's a lot about making a story, because we have these notions of I don't know, gravity, force, mass, momentum, and we build stories how these things interact together. And then of course we add mathematics to the stories and we verify them experimentally, but there is a story behind the physical notions we use and how we connect them.
Hmm.
And when you are in a research level where these stories are not fixed, because you are creating them, you are trying to create them in a way that's consistent,
Yes.
things are more abstract, and you have to actually be really creative and think and how to put things together. So it has a lot of combining logical parts of the mind and imaginative parts of the mind. I mean, I couldn't see this back then. That's the interesting thing, because I haven't studied this other part of human experience. But I see it now, and I think it's fascinating, actually. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. How has that helped you with your diagnosis? Both with the hypnotherapy and the neuro-linguistic programming, but also what you have learned through your science and academic background. How has that really changed or helped your experience with your illness?
How helped my academic background with my experience, my
Yeah,
experience?
like how is combining the two, right? Like you have
Ah,
hypnotherapy. So how has sort of what you've done to heal yourself or to be where you are right now with your health, how has sort of both backgrounds coming together been able to lead you to where you're at now?
yeah. Like, I have to say, initially they didn't come together. Initially there was a reactionary phase,
Yeah.
where I wanted to completely like block the other thing and come
Yeah.
out of its logic and explore something new. And but while exploring something new, I think that my physics and science background helped me a lot, because, like, and it's not necessary for people to study physics and science to get what I'm going to say. I just got it through that route. But basically, I had the opportunity to study in my academic career many different patterns of thinking by studying different physical systems.
Mhm.
So I was able to more easily make sense of new things I was learning, because I was able to match them to other things, because I had a big database of patterns
Yes.
uh, already inside. But people can generally, I mean, physics is great to give you that, but people can generally build that by just enlarging their life experiences and studying things across fields.
Hmm.
So they enlarge their database of what's in their mind, and what basically the things they have to relate other things together. Yeah.
Relativity. Everything's relative. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this helped me eventually. Making this helped me to realize in a more logical way, because for me, logic and things making sense is to some degree important still.
Yes.
Made me realize in a more logical way um, what I need to do to better manage my diagnosis and my symptoms, and basically feel I'm more in control because I was able to identify the patterns, I was able to understand the tools, what I
Yeah.
need to do, and see the bigger picture and not just be, oh, here is a tool that someone gives me that works and I will apply it and see what happens. I mean, initially I started like that,
Yeah.
but progressively I was able to put things more together, and this helped me to better manage my own experience, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, to
Yeah,
take those symptoms and those tough moments and use them as learning opportunities. It's hard to do when you're
exactly.
in pain, but that is that's what the flare up show is all about. It wasn't flare like fail forward, flare up. So every flare I had with my autoimmune, it was just an opportunity to find other things that either did or didn't work,
Yeah.
or cues that may have happened. Can you share a little bit about how fibromyalgia affected you? What were some of the symptoms that started to come up? And you mentioned that feeling of loss of control, and I think that's very common with people that have chronic conditions. We're like, what the heck do I even know my own body anymore? Can you share a little about your experience with the disease and how it progressed?
Uh, yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say, I will go into that, but first of all, I want to say, because you said, yeah, it's like when pain comes and when flare-ups come, it can be very difficult
Hmm.
to feel that we handle the situation. And that's indeed true. That I know I was feeling like that, and I know many people feel like that. But a useful thing to think at the moment is that this is not me all the time.
Hmm.
And because this is me not all the time, even though I feel this thing now, I can put my mind to a way I am at a different moment and focus at a different moment, knowing that what I'm experiencing right now will eventually diminish and resolve, and I will go back to the moment I am in a different state. And
Yes.
I think about me in my first, when I first started working with my pain, was one of the things that really helped me a lot. The feeling that I I am not what's happening to me right now. I'm
Yeah.
something more than that. This is happening. Yes, it's true, it's happening. But I know it will pass, and it will pass faster if I focus how I will be once it passes faster. So yeah, that's a thought process that helped me a lot back then, I have to say, and maybe other people will
Yes.
find it useful too.
Great advice.
Um, Regarding for me, it was a bit like I was in a in a very stressful period of my life, and I was overworking myself, which is apparently a very common trait with people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and ME, and possibly other conditions. But for this, it's a very common trait. I know that from experience. And yeah, and people were telling me, people were telling me like, "Oh, you look tired," and I was like, behind my mind, I knew it, but I was just ignoring it, and I was ignoring it for too long. I've reached a point where I would drink an energy drink, and I don't mean Red Bull. Red Bull was doing me nothing. I would drink a Monster, and in 10 minutes I would fall asleep.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I, w- I mean, now that I say it sounds, funny back then, and that's how hard I was pushing myself.
Hmm.
And then I had an instance of basically where I got an injury. There was a combination of an injury I got on my foot, like some plantar fasciitis, something minor. And also there were some bugs in the house that were biting us.
Oh yeah.
And then I started getting this pain in my feet. which was like very intense pain, like I could barely walk. And it was also like it was lots of pain and also like needles and these things, like when things get numb also. So it was like both a bruise pain and kind of like a nerve pain. It was weird. And yeah, I was going through physical therapy for the plantar fasciitis, which is an injury at the bottom of the foot for people who don't know. But they didn't know what to do with anything else. And then the pain started spreading. Then it came to my hands. And then I think one morning I woke up and my whole body was hurting. It was like pain on my spine, on my hands, my feet. I was going to type on the keyboard, and the joints in my fingers were hurting by pressing the keys. And it was horrible. Like there I panicked. I didn't know what to do anymore. And I had no inflammation, like, no obvious inflammation at least. And I mean, yeah, I followed like a series of doctors, like rheumatologist, neurologist. I did all the battery of tests.
Yes. You're healthy as a horse. Your blood labs are clean. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like there was one key phrase I remember one of the doctors I saw said to me back then, which was, um, he said, "So let me get this. Before that, you were a perfect example of a healthy individual, and now you have all this." And I was like, yes. I mean, okay, for me, that's my story. For other people, they may have other issues going on. And then he tells me, well, you see, like when in young people, so many things appear together, usually there is a single cause. And this didn't make sense back then, but it stayed in my mind because, like, I mean, okay, it made sense and it stayed in my mind. I just couldn't relate it to something back then. And well, essentially, my rheumatologist, which was my main doctor, didn't know what to do with me. It was very strange. I was also having this thing in the esophagus. It's called esophagus hypersensitivity. It feels like reflux.
Yes.
But it's not reflux. They put an instrument inside to measure if acid comes up, and there is no acid coming up, and you still have the symptoms. So it's just like the nerves in your esophagus are getting very sensitive, and you feel you have reflux, but you don't. It was very weird, and yeah, it was actually it was my GI doctor who started me on a mild antidepressant to help with pain. And it helped.
Good.
It helped. And then I got a bunch of other orthopedic problems, which were not related to fibromyalgia. And for them, at some point, I sought after a pain management doctor. Basically, my rheumatologist didn't know how to diagnose me before. And the GI doctor was dealing mainly with that. So, and I also asked them about the other symptoms I had, the pain in the hands and the feet. I never had trigger points myself. That was the weird thing. I never had trigger points. And my pain management doctor tells me, well, yeah, this looks like an atypical case of fibromyalgia. And that's how I got my diagnosis. It was not even a typical one.
Yeah.
I mean, she asked me if I have, done like tests for autoimmune disorders and all that. And I told her yes, repeatedly. We've done blood, we've done X-rays, MRIs, but nothing. And she's like, yeah, like then like it's an atypical case of fibromyalgia.
That's all that's left. That's all we got left. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know how else to call this thing. So here is a stamp. But it felt good because finally I had a name for it.
Label. Yeah.
And I know many people who are in this journey and like they don't know what's going on. I mean, they really seek a diagnosis. They seek a name for it because having a name on things helps us understand them and process them, right? Like our mind works by putting things in boxes.
Yes.
Even in some sense, boxes are bad because they are limiting.
Yes.
In another sense, they are very useful because they help us make sense of the world. Without them, we can't make sense of the world at all. So even though it's just a label for something we don't understand, it's a useful label because it signifies something. We
Yes.
tested for everything else. We didn't find anything. We give you that because it summarizes your symptoms, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's eventually how I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It was a bit by accident
It
because I
takes
was also I was also in the position where, like, while all this was happening, I left the US. This started when I was living in the US, and basically I had to change all my doctors before I got diagnosed. And then I was in Spain, which I was in a foreign country, a new country. I didn't speak the language.
mm,
So yeah,
you did it.
eventually I got diagnosed by pain management doctor in Greece, who I went to see for other things. Yeah.
Hmm. The label helps so much because sometimes we think, am I making it up? Am I just, is this all in my head? But sometimes just having that label can help us be like, oh, okay, this is a condition. And like you said, it's helpful to see ourselves separate from the condition. It's not our identity, it's just something that's
Yeah.
happening to us or with inside of us, but
Yeah.
it's not actually us. So I really like that. How long did it take that whole process to get your diagnosis? When from when you started noticing the pain to when you're like, oh, fibromyalgia.
I think it was like maybe 5 years,
Yeah.
something of that order. I don't remember exactly anymore, but it was around 5 years, plus or
Yes.
minus. Yeah. So it was not a lot. I've heard of stories of people who have it for decade before they get
Yeah.
finally diagnosed. And I've heard of stories of people who get diagnosed in 2 years. So I think I'm quite in the middle.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And Canada, it was a few years ago. I haven't looked at the statistic recently, but when I started the show, it was an average of 11 years to get diagnosed with an autoimmune or a chronic condition. Like that's a long time for people to be like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just human anymore? But it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. And I think it would be good if people had some support and some mental tools during that process.
Yes.
And I really feel that's something that's missing. And I really felt it was missing for me, actually, now that we mention it. Yeah, I think it's something that would uh, benefit people, provided that's 22, provided they want to start seeing things a bit differently.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I know it's very difficult when we feel pain and all these foreign symptoms to start panicking and feeling something is wrong in my body. And it may as well be, it may as well be,
Yes.
and not knowing can actually make the emotional things worse, and actually whatever is going can trigger it even more sometimes.
Yes.
Um, so I think like I think it would be useful for me back then if I was able to say, okay, this is a thing, it's happening, I'm gonna figure it out, and in the meantime, like, I don't need to work up myself to figure it out.
No.
Now, I didn't realize this back then, and now I'm past it when I realize. But I think it would be very useful for me back then if I was able to adopt this mentality. And
Hmm.
I know that sometimes when we say these things, it's easier to say when one is past a certain point versus people who are into it. They're still seeking their diagnosis, and they're still trying to find what's going on, and they deal with the dismissive attitude from some doctors, who are like, oh yeah, like it's all in your mind, or lose weight, or
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah. So again, like for me, like the thing there is like what the same with pain. When this emotion comes, like it's fine that it came, but you know, okay, like now I realize that this is what's happening, and I can a bit put it on the side
Yes.
and
How
then
did,
think, what are
yes.
my options?
Yes. And how did hypnotherapy and the practice of neuralistic programming, which is basically rewiring the brain to have healthier thoughts and drive better action and have better response to stress in our, because that NLP also helps our body become more resilient to factors in our environment, right? Because it's a whole nerve system that's connected, not just the brain. It's not just the thoughts, it's a little bit of
Yeah.
everything. How did you use those? How did you start practicing those in your life and then figure out that it could help a lot of people?
Well, I mean, what I just mentioned is how I practice it and
Yeah.
how I started practicing it actually.
That's yeah.
Be-
Yeah.
I think, well, okay, like, but you see, when I started doing this, I wasn't aware this thing has a name. I wasn't aware this thing has a system and
Mhm.
the variability of tools I can have in this. So essentially, what hypnosis and NLP gives us is a way to study, craft, and sift our own experience in
Mhm.
ways both with ourselves and how we interact with others, because that's the essence of it. I know, especially when it comes to hypnosis, people have these images of someone in a show making people do ridiculous things.
Yeah.
And this makes it a bit challenging to explain. But this is actually a valid point because this is an experience people are having in the show, and they generate this experience based on what's appropriate in the context of the show, right? They bought a
Yes.
ticket for the show, they volunteered to go on stage, so they know
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah.
They concede to it, they agree to it, and so but and then you know we have hypnosis and hypnotherapy, which looks vastly different from what happens in a stage hypnosis show,
Mhm.
which people are more calm, more relaxed, and they can overcome. We can help them overcome. We don't like do it for them. They have to be motivated for this to happen. Various issues and mental blocks they may have. And then again, this works in a different setting, in a different context, in a different way, but also by using the tools of what makes a human experience and how we can shift it in collaboration with another person. I think that's the core of NLP and hypnosis.
Mhm.
So studying these things and finding the system, the how to put it, the system behind the various dispersed tools
Mhm.
gave me the ability to be more flexible. First of all, I understood, right? I understood that I'm not my emotions in a more clear way. NLP has these presuppositions, which
Yes.
are basically useful assumptions to have, right?
Yes.
So one is you are not your emotions. That's one thing. And even pain, you're not your pain. Even pain is something transient. We can talk
Yes.
about this a bit later. Uh, Another useful presupposition of NLP is that the map is not the territory. Basically, which essentially means the model we have of the world, the idea we have of the world, even the idea we have of our own selves, is not all we can be. We can exist in different states, we can exist in different ways and find different ways to relate with ourselves in the world. And this is a very liberating, like, because often we have a specific way of thinking that we got conditioned into and developed through our life. And if everything works out for us, we have no reason to question it until something big comes.
Yes.
And then if we've never worked with it, we feel lost. But just knowing we can be something bigger than it, and we can exist with ourselves and with the world in different ways, and we have options, it's a very empowering thing. Because to explore options, we first have to know we have them.
Yes. And then there's so many options if we listen to the noise around us. We get decision fatigue, right? Where we're just like, just somebody tell
Yeah.
me what to do to fix this. And that's why hypnosis and NLP is so, I find it quiets the noise. So, because I think sometimes we feel like, okay, I sat in attack, I'll just go take an Advil and deal with it. Well, but if we can get quiet and still and really figure out what we want to listen to and what we want to think about things, we could find the tack and start to pull it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like part of all this of different ways of existing with ourselves is ways where we can put ourselves into more neutral.
Yes.
Basically, how we can shift to a more neutral state where we are not associated with whatever is causing us the overwhelm. We can just push it aside and examine our options from a bit of a distance and more clarity.
Yes.
And I just want to say that some of these things are very simple, right? Like it can be some simple, like, okay, like what I'm feeling right now. And that's a simple tool anyone can use actually. Like what I'm feeling right now, how do I call it? Again, using words. Is it overwhelm? Is it anxiety? Where I feel it in my body. And people can think where they feel it in their body. And then literally grab it from where they feel it in their body and just put it aside in whichever direction is best for them.
Yes.
They may feel it when it's just bad, they may feel it in their head. If they feel it in their head, it's also fine. It's just like, just put it aside and now think how you want to process what's going on. And I mean, sometimes we feel we may lose something when we do that, but no, the overwhelm is still yours. It's there. You can just grab it and put it back if you want it.
Yes, it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It's still yours. You can just put it back if you want it, right? So
Yes, I love that. Those are great visuals, and I love that sometimes we hear words like hypnotherapy or neuro linguistic programming, and we're like, oh, it just sounds so complicated, but it's really not. There are things we do every day. Even hypnosis, we're in states of hypnosis ourselves many times throughout the day, right? If you've sort of zoned out and been like, oh yeah, where am I? Or you start thinking about, dinner tonight, that's hypnosis, right? It's just where your brain has gone off and into a different state.
yeah, I think behind all that, behind both hypnosis and NLP, is something that is very, very natural and happens all the time, even when we don't zone out. Actually, like basically our reality is created internally all the time. In some sense, we imagine our own reality, not actively as imagination, but it's being created internally. So we don't know what's out there. We know the ideas in our mind about what's out there based on the information that comes in, together with how our mind processes it because of past experiences, beliefs, thoughts, and all that. So, and this happens automatically. Like, even now that we are speaking, I think people who are listening to us are not interpreting everything we say just word by word. It just makes meaning automatically. I mean, now that when I say that, then usually I say, now that I pointed it out, you pay more word by word, and they're like, yes.
Yeah.
but it's true. It's like, yeah, it's like even when we choose something and we critically think, do I want A or B? Then we think, okay, I'm not in the moment, I'm not zoned out, I'm actually thinking. But did we really think to choose? Or did this just happen all by itself? Right?
Yeah, it's an isolated and probably not. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So then when we direct, and this is a power we all have inside us. And when we direct this power, and like when we focus on what we want and on the outcomes we want and what we want to achieve in our lives or how we want to be in the moment, then we can really shift our state and change how our own reality is being generated automatically.
Mhm.
And essentially, that's what it's all about. It's like helping yourself or finding someone to help you to shift the way you automatically generate reality in ways that are more meaningful for you and better for you, according to what you want. Because what's better, it's kind of dependent on each person.
Yes.
There is no generic recipe, actually.
No, I love that. I want to shift, if it's okay, just a little bit, because I was
Yeah.
on your website and I read your blog, and there was one that I was just like, I really love this, because I think it ties into this perception of reality and how we create the reality around us. But you wrote a blog about detoxify your success. So
Yes.
you share, what is toxic success and how can we detoxify ourselves?
Yeah. So this came from motivation because I am in the coaching business and the helping people business. And, once you are into this business, social media starts showing you everyone else's ads because they think it's right.
Yeah. Stop showing me other coaches. Show me people that need a coach. Yeah. Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
there is a pervasive theme there, which for some people is great and it works. Okay. There is a pervasive theme of promoting success in very specific stereotypical ways.
Mhm.
Like you are happy with a glee all the way to your ears. You, you
Every
have
day, jump out of bed that way. Yeah.
exactly. You have
Yeah.
money and abundance, and you are you are manifesting by just
Yeah.
snapping your fingers.
So
Um,
easy. Yeah.
you are a magician of life, and everything happens for you.
And everything I put on social media is 100% true. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, now, this is a depiction of something more general,
Yeah.
because essentially these are marketing strategies,
Yes.
and marketing strategies are not coming out of thin air. They are actually using things that are already exist inside us by what we are conditioned to put our value to.
Yeah.
So, um, in addition to what social media and advertisements show, there is the general how we're conditioned to think what is successful and what a good life is, and what it means to have made
Yeah. We've
it.
arrived.
Yes, you are right. We never. Well, I have news for you. We never arrive. We can always get better, but we never arrive.
Yes, there's always a humble moment right after we think we've arrived. Always. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so there is like how much all this resonate with our own reality, and how much this resonates with how we really feel about ourselves and what we want to do with our lives. And I think that especially when people get a chronic illness, they may feel a big dissonance with that. But also in general, having this dissonance that you have some goals, which we may even believe they're right for us, but something deep inside us is like, no. And experiencing this conflict inside us is mentally taxing and actually can hold us back more in what we are really want to achieve in our own lives. So I prefer like that it's better than saying success to say how we can be content with what we are doing
Yes.
in our lives, how we can feel satisfied and fulfilled. Like, and it's not even about reaching your true potential.
No. No.
it, it's about being in alignment with yourself and
Yes.
with, of course, the goals you have, and the goals you have in the future should also be into some degree in alignment with how you feel now. Like, it's okay to have a goal that you may want to achieve, so you may not have yet, and feels a bit foreign. But going after these goals should feel in alignment with you in the moment, essentially. So for me, that's the toxicity of success. That's one aspect, like the societal conditioning we get. And another important aspect of it is that when these things we deem them important, whether it's our own goals or something external, we may get overly fixated to it. But we are not the same person. We change through our lives, and we may get overly fixated our goal that doesn't work for us anymore. And because our identity shifts, our self is not one thing, our self shifts. And if we fixated in something that was something for us in the past, but now doesn't mean anything, then we are just burning extra fuel to get it. And even if we reach it, it wouldn't feel satisfying. It would feel like, okay, like I climbed all these stairs to the 100th floor of a skyscraper to reach a room with no windows.
Yeah.
Versus, I don't know, climbing
Great analogy.
climbing several kilometers to reach the top of a mountain where I will be in contact with nature, or whatever else could be the equivalent for each person, essentially. So yeah, I think these are for me the two big elements of where the notion of success can become toxic, and they play together, of course. Yeah.
Oh, you reminded me of just a couple weeks ago on one recording with another coaching company, Blondes Restoration. We actually had that same topic about potential and about I don't personally like the word potential, because to me that feels like I'm below a bar that I need to reach. But I love the word possibilities, because it's like, oh no, we're already worthy of all these things. It's just a matter of where do I feel like I want to go. And then to give yourself the freedom to go do that, regardless of what society or other people have placed. But there is Brené Brown talks about that too, about comparison is like competition on one side and conformity on the other. Be like everybody else, but be the best at it. And it's like, whose race are we running here, right?
And there is this basically there is this implied notion of one-upmanship, who is the best in it and how I can be like them.
Oh, you reminded me of, there's an author named John Acuff. He's really funny, and he talks about that. He had a friend who was a magician, but he wouldn't charge for his fees to do magic at parties and stuff, because he's like, well, I'm not really the best. And he's like, so in order for you to do what you love and make a living at it, you have to be the very best in the whole world. Like where are the Wizard Olympics? Where does that happen? How do you compete to be sure that you're the very best? And he was like, oh yeah, that does sound ridiculous, right? Yes, it's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm like, I want to go to the Wizard Olympics. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and I think some of these ideas are useful for some people still, like these notions of beauty and money, because they resonate with some people, and then it's fine.
Yes.
It's just not everyone's sense of self and language and metaphor.
No.
Yeah.
But it's the pursuit of too that matters. So it's that. And I think that's why people do pursue some of those things, because they, like athletes, enjoy the sport that they're doing, and there's an enjoyment of the process as well as the competition itself, right? So
Yeah, I think that's an important part. Like when we have a goal, or even a long-term, even more important, a long-term goal, to be able to evaluate ourselves along the way and find satisfaction in intermediate steps. And also, if something goes wrong, to be able to, again, step into a neutral space and critically think about it and think how we want to adjust our course, essentially.
Yeah.
I think like it's very interesting because was it Columbus that he wanted to go to India? And he went, she reached the America. Still,
He didn't make
still
it.
was, still he didn't make it, but still it was, you know,
That
quite
was
an
something. Yeah.
important. Yeah, it was something, right? We wouldn't say, oh,
Yes.
this guy did not.
Yes. It is funny. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. There is this perception, I guess, that everything is transactional. So we place a lot of emphasis on transactions, like this one went good, this one went bad, this one went good, now it's bad again. But if we, I think we have to somehow stay steady in the middle and look at things over a longer period of time to see. I just don't know if we give it that, we got to zoom out a little bit, right? And that's what you said, like, yeah, okay, great, this was a win, let's just put it aside and let's look at a few transactions in a row and see what happens.
Yeah, I think we should be willing to let ourselves experiment and play with things and be curious and open about the process. And then, of course, we should like have some intermediate pit stops and where we can reflect back and be like, but actually, if we stop ourselves every step along the way and judging ourselves, then we are really not getting anywhere. So it's fine if we stray a bit in one direction and then stray a bit in another. And eventually, like,
Find your way back.
eventually, all this is feedback that will help us find our way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. So how can people work with you? Where can they find you?
Oh, where people can work for me. So, I mean, I have a group in Facebook, which is called Pain Peacemakers, and it's about helping people overcome chronic pain
Mm-hmm.
with the power of their mind.
Love it.
This is this is indeed possible.
Yes.
And you can, I mean, just join the group or feel free to write me in Facebook. And I have like, I do lives there. I have information and just come. It's free. Just come
Yeah,
and
totally.
educate
I'm gonna join
yourself.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, and check does this speak to me? Does has this something to give to me? I share a lot of information, so I think even if someone doesn't work directly with me, they will still get things from
Yes.
there. And also, the thing is that people who have chronic pain, they also have more general issues. So I share more general things there, but also people can contact me directly through my website if they want to have a one-on-one brief call with me or send me a message in Facebook. And
Perfect.
we can see where you're at. We can see um, if there is something I can do for you. There is no guarantee because if I don't, I will be honest. I will tell you like, hey, look, like I don't think I can help here. But if I can, maybe I can. So let's
Yes.
find out.
That's
That's
I
all.
love that.
And yeah, but join the group. It's free.
Perfect. We'll do that. We'll do that. Are there any
Yeah,
last words
yeah.
you would like to leave with the audience? Any last nuggets of wisdom or something you would want people maybe in a chronic condition or pain? What's one thing you would want them to know most?
Yeah. Oh, having to choose one, right?
Yeah.
That's a bit tough.
What's
Uh,
the yeah, what's the glowing, yeah, what's one thing you, if they were gonna be like, tell me one thing I can do or try, what might it be?
one thing that they can do or try. Okay, I will say two. I can't
Okay,
pick
two.
one.
I'll let you say two. Two is good.
um, one thing is that whatever you are like, because there are people with many different conditions, okay? Whatever you are feeling, you're experiencing, where there is pain, there is fatigue, there is inflammation, it's important to think that this is a message your body is giving you for a reason, for a problem that's going on. But the pain and the fatigue, you're experiencing is not the problem per se. So if you think that this pain and fatigue is just a message, you allows you to be a bit more kind to yourself. You can even thank your body that it gave you this message, even though the message is unpleasant. It's counterintuitive. But by showing some gratitude to your body that it gave you this message, so you know what's going on, can really help ease the discomfort you're feeling at the moment. And that's the second thing, can allow you to shift in a space where you can explore your options, because you are not your flare up all the time. And you can think when you have a flare up, initially it may be challenging and all these emotions and thoughts come in your mind, and it's fine, it's normal. But once this comes up and you realize this is what's going on, then you can realize it's a message, be thankful for the message, and be like, thank you, I need to examine my options. I need you a bit to go on the side now. And sometimes it's as simple as that. And I think that's a great tool I would like everyone to have. And I hope they will experience benefit and more comfort in their lives because of it. Because when they can examine their options, well, then many things in life start getting better when you realize you have options.
Yes.
And you are not narrowed down into the single reality of what you are feeling at the moment.
Yes.
So that's it.
Hope. I love it. That's a great last message. Thank you so much for your time, Orestis.
Oh, thank you so much, Chrissy. It was a pleasure to talk with you and share with everyone. And thank you very much. Okay.